Hey guys, how's it going? Bored now, back with you. And it's been a while since I've done a political themed video, and there's a fair bit starting to happen, so I thought it'd be a good time to do one and get back to it. And of course, the race for the Labour leadership is starting to heat up as they get into the second round of whatever the word is, ballads, nominations, whichever you want to say. And so, well, so far, from my point of view, it's not looking too great. It looks as though the way things are heading, the Labour Party are not going to make the changes that they need to get back into power next election, and they're not going to make the changes overall which are going to benefit the company, the country, I should say, company, in my opinion. So obviously Keir Starmer is the clear leader at the moment, the clear favourite. You have Rebecca Long-Bailey at number 2. She was, of course, a close ally of Jeremy Corbyn. She has the backing of John McDonnell. And then you have Lisa Nandy, Jess Phillips, who got a decent percentage of the votes. They're still in the race. And then you have further back Clive Lewis and Emily Thornberry, who don't seem to have enough votes to make the next round, which is a little surprising on Emily Thornberry. That surprises me, actually. I think maybe her opposition to Corbyn and how outspoken she's been maybe has worked against her. I'm not sure. She seems a very divisive figure, but she seemed to me someone with a lot of experience who would... I mean, she certainly has a strong personality. You can't deny that. So, mate, I'm a little surprised that she's looking like she's going to go out of the running this soon. Not so much with Clive Lewis. He's a bit of an unknown quantity. But again, he's the sort of candidate who you think might be aiming to do a little something different, and is sort of recognising some of the faults with the Labour campaign last time around. So let's talk about Keir Starmer first, who as it stands is the favourite. Now, I have nothing against Starmer. I think he's a solid enough MP. I mean, some people on the Remain side of the argument of Brexit have said, well, this is kind of good because he is a strong Remainer. He is very much that in the way of thinking. But my response to that is then that conversation has passed now. Really, Brexit is going to happen, and certainly it's happening in a way which doesn't satisfy me and is very dangerous for this country. But the Brexit conversation, in terms of whether we stay or remain, if there was an opportunity to reverse things and remain, that has now gone, really. There's no doubt it's going to happen now. It's just a case of how it happens. And we need a strong opposition to try and hold the government to account and try to... I mean, it's nigh on impossible now that Boris has got a majority anyway, but in any case, bringing up the old chestnut of should we rethink, should we stay in the EU, no matter how much some people might want it, it's not going to happen now. So it's counterproductive to even go down that road. But my issues with Starmer are, I think he doesn't really break the mould of what we had with Corbyn and what we've had in the past. I think he is this very middle class, highly educated sort of, well-read sort of figure. I mean, from what I've seen of him in public, he's not the best public speaker. He doesn't sort of get across much of a personality. I think as a politician, he's perfectly solid. I think I would be in favour of a lot of his sort of viewpoints, some more than others. But he just feels like a safe pair of hands. He just feels like the sort of character who is not that dissimilar to Jeremy Corbyn, and the sort of politician who, I mean, let's face it, if the Corbyn experiment didn't work and if he couldn't break in and get across to the heartlands and the working class voters, I mean, who turned away from the Labour Party at the last election, if he couldn't get the job done, then I can't see how Keir Starmer can. The only way, I guess, is then maybe he doesn't have the same stigma attached to him as Corbyn. He doesn't. Although, to be fair, I mean, if issues of anti-Semitism continue in the Labour Party, then that will probably be a problem for whoever the leader is. So that applies to Starmer as well, unless he deals with them in a more swift way than Corbyn did. So Starmer, for me, he wouldn't be my choice, and I think Labour are playing a dangerous game by just going for a safe option rather than go. I mean, I have no problems with them maybe sticking to some of the ideas and policies they had under Corbyn, because certainly many of them were positive, but they just need a new strategy of how to present themselves, the policies. And they do need, in my opinion, a more forward-thinking leader, someone who can connect to the working class voter. Lorne Bailey, again, I think she's a perfectly fine MP, but would feel like a safe choice. She, of course, a close ally of Corbyn, and the fact that John McDonnell is backing her. I do think there is room to keep some of the direction Labour has gone in over the last, 5 years under Corbyn. But we do need a fresh leader, a fresh type of leader, if you're not like, and a whole rethink of their strategy. And you need to prioritise certain things over others. The 4-day week, for example, I don't think is a priority. It's a nice idea, but I don't think it's a priority for most working class voters. So that gets me on to, I want to talk particularly about Lisa Nandy, because she has really started her bid for the leadership in a very positive way. From day one, she's gone out and she's knocked on the door of like working class voters. She's targeted those heartlands that were feel left behind and left out in the conversation under Corbyn and the last Labour election. And she's gone and spoken to them, and more importantly, she's listened to them. So that's a very impressive start for her. Also, she's spoken very strongly against Johnson and the government. She's made it clear that it's a hardcore Brexit, it's a hardline Brexit that would really risk our futures. Reading between the lines, it's a very anti-human rights Brexit. It's an attack on human rights. It's an attack on the rights, of child refugees to be protected no matter their future in the country. So she's been very clear about that. She's been very direct about that. She's talked about the potential impact on our country, on the finance, on the security. She's spoken with a level head and a lot of common sense, and she's been very clear on her position and very strong. I think Lisa Nandy would be a great person to take the Labour forward. She's also been very critical of the way we protect people abroad, like this recent, case of a woman who was, was involved, was at least accused someone of being raped, and the position over there. but Lisa Nandy has got off to a really great start. And I think we need to address what's going on in Labour, the whole momentum group and the unions. And certainly a lot of cynical people think that that's the main reason Corbyn got in and then got re-elected. And, you know, there's stories of the prices going up to be members. You know, it used to be like whatever, £2 or £3, and now it's like £25, which is pretty ridiculous when you think about it. And you know, it does seem from the outside that they are becoming a bit of an elitist sort of group, and that they're blocking off other kinds of candidates, other voices. So Lisa Nandy would represent a good alternative. She connects with working class voters. She has a solid history she was originally in the cabinet and then the shadow cabinet. She has held on to a seat in Wigan. She remains a good candidate, a good alternative. I think Keir Starmer, I think maybe even someone like Clive Lewis, that he's not going to get in anyway, but they just feel like sort of been there, done that. Rebecca Long Bailey, similar. So Lisa Nandy, Jess Phillips, who has a personality, these are the people you should be looking at. But I've been very impressed with Nandy, and it just smacks of me of this elitist sort of group. The fact that, you know, conveniently Keir Starmer is the one out in front. Now, maybe the Brexit thing is a factor in that, maybe because he's seen as this Remainer, and maybe certain people within the Labour Party feel, well, you know, at least then we could take a clear position on it. But that's not enough for me. That's not enough to sort of justify the nomination. And I'm a bit concerned. I mean, at least Lisa Nandy's in the running. At least Jess Phillips is in the running. But I just feel I'm concerned that the Labour Party is going to repeat its mistakes. I mean, there's been more infighting, more issues of anti-Semitism over the last day or so, claims made by Emily Formby. We'll have to see if there's any sort of truth to those. But I'm a bit concerned at the moment. At least Nandy and Phillips are in the running, and we'll see if one of them. Who knows? I mean, Nandy has been very strong in getting out there on social media. She's been a real presence. She really seems to be speaking from the heart. I think the timing might be right for someone like that, female, working class, a fresh voice. You know, and is able to focus on the key issues which affect everyday life for people. So I think the timing maybe feels right for Lisa Nandy. But unfortunately, it doesn't feel like the party agree, or they've got this very elitist sort of makeup, which I think is putting a block on that. I mean, I could be proven wrong. This whole thing it's based on a poll, but it seems as though they're in the mindset that they can still get into power with a lot of what Corbyn set up, a lot of the ideals that were set up under his leadership. They just need maybe a fresh leader. But I'm not sure. I don't think the Corbyn experiment worked. I mean, there was positives under it, but ultimately it failed to really connect to people. And I'm not sure Keir Starmer is the guy to necessarily take on the baton and you know, drive it home. Who knows? I mean, in 5 years we could be in a very different position. But in any case, I mean, Nandy's in the running, Phillips is in the running. So fingers crossed for someone of that ilk to get through. Now, there's obviously several people in the running for deputy leader. And out of those, I would say Angela Rayner would be a very good choice. She again comes from a working class background. She's younger, she has fresh ideas. I think she's a very good public speaker, actually. I remember her on the election campaign. She was one of the highlights, actually. She was one of the people who did manage to cut across and get her message across and speak up for the party very well. So, someone like Angela Rayner would be my choice for the deputy leader personally. So maybe Lisa Nandy leader, Angela Rayner as deputy leader, or Jess Phillips involved somewhere. It's the way I would go, and fingers crossed people will listen. So if you want to get that message out there and share my support for them, then do so. Get your voice out there. Now, before I go, I have to talk a little bit about the situation that's been happening with the royal families. I am an anti-royalist, as some of you might know, and it does frustrate me the amount of coverage they get. But in this case, I think this is a story worth talking about, and it does actually highlight flaws with the royal family once again, and it brings these things to attention and puts a spotlight on these question marks. So basically, Meghan Markle, Harry, they've taken a big step into leaving public life, if you like, or as much as you possibly can. They'll be hounded till the end of time if the press have their way. But, they've taken a big step to stepping away from their royal duties. I think the experiences they've had in the last year has really shocked them. It's been a culture shock, particularly for Meghan Markle. Some of the abuse she's had is absolutely disgraceful. They've made the decision. It's happened pretty fast, the whole money issue and should they still be supported comes under, a subject of public interest because the taxpayers do pay a lot of their way. Now, in this situation, I have a lot of sympathy for the couple. They are human beings at the end of the day. My anti-royal thing is to do with the institution as a whole, not targeted at just them. And considering the rough ride she's had and, again, some of the horrible racist abuse she's had, I can't blame her for wanting to step away. And I can't blame them as human beings for wanting to raise their family in private. I've always thought it's a little bit odd, this whole thing of the royal family and being in the public eye and having weddings broadcast. I mean, the whole thing is totally weird to me. Now it does raise the issue of should they be, and let's face it, they are quite wealthy, and I think they should look at the funding being taken away. But then that's an issue of the royals as a whole. But I do want to talk about the press coverage, because the press coverage has been absolutely ridiculous. In most parts, there are exceptions, but for the most part, you've had this ridiculous, they're not facing up to their royal responsibilities. They're sport brats, as that idiot Piers Morgan has said. What a load of baloney. What a load of horse shit that is. Absolutely ridiculous. And once again, the right-wing press at their very, very worst. These are human beings at the end of the day. If they want to step away from the royal family, they should have the freedom to do that. If they don't want that sort of life, if they don't want their private life being masqueraded in the media, that's their perfectly good choice. Now that you can look at, should they then not be funded, and should they not, and they probably shouldn't, that's an issue to look at, but there's no way they should be attacked in the press for their right to step away. And okay, maybe they did get in over the heads, or Meghan did, not really knowing the realities and the responsibilities, but it doesn't make it right for the press to attack them, and it doesn't make it right for them to be expected to, live up to them. We treat these people like robots. We treat them as symbols rather than human beings. And the press, by and large, in this country have been absolutely disgraceful on this subject. Um, and they should just leave them alone. They should just leave them to get on with their lives, really. And obviously, it'll be interesting to see what sort of role they have now, whether they'll be a bit in and out, whether they will do the odd sort of public appearance on the behalf of the royals. It has brought up some very interesting issues, but my sympathies are with them when it comes to the press and the way they've been handled. So that's just my few thoughts on the royal family. So if you want to comment on what's been happening recently with the royals and how you feel about the situation, then feel free. If you disagree, then express it. That's perfectly fine. Just keep it cordial. And obviously comment on the Labour leadership. Who would you like to see as the next Labour leader? Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.